We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on Mike McDaniel's offense for the Miami Dolphins and how I think he found like a potential blueprint for the rest of the season versus New England. I think his game plan was way better. Definitely his best game plan of the season versus the Patriots. And one thing McDaniel's always had is his play design. Like his play design has always been top notch, especially his run game play design. His usage of Alec Ingold was beautiful in this game, and I think they've potentially found an identity. And that's not saying like they ran the ball about 40 times in this game, and that's not saying like and they ran their play action the best. That doesn't necessarily you need to just run the ball every single game, but if you are able to, even with Tua returns, just build this identity of more of a run first team, that will start opening up the passing game more and more. And like teams are playing to stop the run with the backup quarterback in right now. Now when Tua returns, I'm going to be interested to see how teams adjust. Do they go back to playing too high more than anyone against the Dolphins, or do they do more of the single high stuff? Because the Dolphins were still able to find run success versus a lot of like stacked boxes versus New England. Now I can imagine them still finding success, especially their next like 6 matchups. All of them have pretty poor run defenses. I think the Dolphins will find a lot of success here. Getting downhill, it was a great mix of usage. Like there was way less crack toss, but they used the crack toss to disguise a lot of things, like things they usually do. They still ran toss plays, but it was less of the basic crack toss stuff they were working. They, were still mixed in some fun looks. But it was a lot of, gap. They ran some power, just outside zone. Then play action. And the play action was like the most wide open the looks off play action have been all year. And Huntley had all of his best plays off of play action. So there's a lot of, design stuff. I think if you look at a team like the Lions, obviously the Lions have a much better offensive line. The Dolphins have similar, like, skill position wise across the board. They have, like, Goff and Tua have similar play styles and kind of excel in similar areas. I think that's kind of a blueprint, and like play calling, like play design wise, they both have really some of the better play design in the league. So I think there's a lot of things you can take from them. And this doesn't necessarily mean like there will be games just based on your opponent or how the team's playing you that you can find like there will be quarters, halves, a full game where you're passing more than usual, and that's fine. It doesn't need to be like you're just running 40 times every game. But being able to build this identity, I think, is what is key. And the Dolphins be able to stick with it and really just finding good success across the board. Beautiful design. I think Alec Ingold was key in this game. Like they had Ingold shifting and motioning around and kind of doing it all and really selling different looks. Like loved this play design here where like they have Tyreek in like this nasty split. It looks like he might crack down on the defensive end. It freezes him. Nope. Ingold also gives him a little hesitation there. Frees him. No. Everyone else is down blocking. You get Julian Hill, Austin Jackson down blocking, climb to the next level. Jackson cut off there. Everyone cut off. You get Mostert working, some counter action, but I like how they set this up because usually you'd have like a counter step and then you hand it off to the right side of him. But you hand it up to the left and then it allows Mostert to just bend this back. Ingold goes up, meets the linebacker in a hole. Jones kicks out, and you just create like this huge hole for Raheem to hit through. And this is, when they didn't have like an extra safety, because you can see 2 safeties are deep here. They don't have that extra in the box, and they were able to create some big holes when they got that type of look. And I think with Tua, like especially if Tua comes back in the lineup, I still think this should be their identity because it will make it way easier on Tua. And then those big play opportunities off play action can be huge because he can actually hit them with some consistency, like and create some huge plays. And I think that's something they kind of just went away from at the start of the year with Tua. He didn't get those opportunities, and I think that's always kind of been his biggest strength. The Dolphins just found their identity, even running toss plays. Like I rather have the toss plays like this, not the crack toss. Like, I think the crack toss was so obvious on film, like, teams just overplayed it. And you can still run it from time to time, but I think that's more of just, like, an A-chan only play. But with the motion, you can still run the toss. It just changes up the aiming points. Teams are less flying to the outside, and they do fly to the outside. With this type of toss, you have more of an opportunity for cutbacks. It just gives the running back way more options to work with. And, the defense isn't as committed. So even if he sells to the outside here and these guys start to now play outside leverage, he can stick his foot in the ground, get downhill, and then just pick up 9 yards on the play. And also, like, I think using Mostert and Wright definitely helps out because they can play with a little more physicality, and they really tired out the defense because Dolphins didn't find a ton of run game success early in this game, and it all came sort of later on in the second half. But they really started, and it's not like New England has a horrible run defense. Like next week versus Indianapolis, this should be the full-on game plan. And then, take some deep shots. They don't have a great pass defense either, so you can definitely take some shots against them. But even with Tua returning, I think this is the blueprint. This is how you kind of get your offense back in mojo. and it just allows, I think, for more consistency with the, just all around moving the ball. It creates more, and say, you don't pick up big runs. It creates usually more third and manageable situations for your passing game, if that's the case. And just makes life easier on your quarterback, and I think that should be the game plan moving forward. And then Tua is always off his best off play action. The Dolphins usually have some of their biggest plays. And it just look like the momentum tosses, it works out way better. They have Julian Hill in like this split where he's like really wide here, and it allows him to, really widen this defensive end, and then also with the Ingold coming to help, and they just blocked this up perfectly. Great job here from Ingold and Robert Jones. There's multiple holes that Jalen Wright could hit here. He's reading outside in first, so he obviously hits more of the outside hole first because it's both huge. There's so many different usage. Ingold being motioned across, doing it from the fullback position, doing it from like basically playing as like a move tight end. These types of things, momentum in. They love the design here. It looks like it might be crack toss. Dolphins love selling the crack toss. Look how much these guys commit to the outside. Like the safety hard. Once he sees like Tyreek aligned here and this motion across, and everyone flows this way, this guy hard commits to the outside 15. And then you get this guy to freeze because Tyreek fakes to block him. Ingold now kicks him out with outside zone, and then now you're able to cut up into this. If Barrios gets a block on the safety, it would have been a huge gain, but you're still able to pick up like 5-6 yards on the play. The run game design, absolutely beautiful. The blueprint, I think, is now here. This is without Achane too, and I'm not saying I know people will be like just commit to Mostert and Wright. I kind of like what the Lions do with they have Montgomery get a lot of work in the first half, and then the second half when defenses are tired out, Gibbs gets a ton of work, and Achane is more similar to Gibbs, and I think Mostert and Wright, not quite Montgomery, but they play with a little more power and can tire teams out. And you can definitely get or you can mix it up in the first half. It's more Achane, and then when they're tired out, you bring in the bigger backs. You can kind of go in either direction, and I wouldn't mind seeing either game plan here. But love the lead fullback, love playing with 21 personnel. You get the exit motion here from Tyreek, get everyone to commit out, overflow, find this cutback lane, lead in with Ingold here. Wright was making great plays, and teams just start getting tired out, and makes life way easier on the offensive line. And I think the offensive line is just better run blockers, all around. Most of the O-line are better run blockers. I think the only one who's probably not is Armstead, but Armstead is very good in both pass protection and run blocking. But I think everyone else, like Robert Jones, Eichenberg, Brewer, Austin Jackson, are all better run blockers than pass protector. And even plays like this, where it's not blocked up perfectly, you're able to work, more of an inside zone right here. Wright doesn't really have anywhere to work on where he's reading. He's still able to stick his head down, and with the defense being tired out, fight with your legs, churn, fight for extra yards, still pick up 4 on the game, on the play where there's nothing there, and it makes the life so much easier for your second and third down play calls. Because early on in the season, it was so much second and 13, third and 13, because they would run those crack tosses for their running game, or they would, get maybe an incompletion and it'd be second and 10, third and 10, or they get sacked from trying to run the, just not running downhill. I think being able to run downhill, still able to run their tosses in their outside zone, but making the aiming points better for your running backs, making the play calling less predictable. This is sort of the blueprint, the blueprint for the Miami Dolphins, I think, for the rest of the season. And there will be games where you definitely commit to the passing game, especially with Tua at quarterback, and it will make sense. Go look at what the Lions are doing. They'll have drives where they'll run the ball a lot, and then they'll have drives where they don't run the ball at all, and it's just the passing game, and it's a big play, because it's just with how teams are playing against them, it makes sense. And clearly, if the Dolphins are able to build that identity, it would help out the passing game so much, and just keep you more consistent. Also, with the running game, it helps you sustain drives longer and keep your defense off the field. I think the defense has played too many snaps, and it allows them to get more rest, which is big for them. Dolphins running more gap scheme stuff. Love this. Watch they motion in Ingold here. They used him so well throughout the game. You got down block, down block, down block, down block with the pulling guard across. Similar concept. You get Ingold to freeze 33 with a little hesitation there. Block up there. Eichenberg's able to kick out, meet up at the next level with Ingold and Julian Hill. They get called for a weak holding there, but that's just what you can do. And Jalen Wright has so much big playability, even though he can run these stuff the more of the interior runs, which he's very comfortable doing. Him and Mostert still are 4-3 guys that can break long runs if they get a seam. So still big playability created within your running game that I think a lot of teams don't have. And then I just prefer these toss plays so much more. that are more like lead tosses. It could be momentum. Ingle could be motioned across. He gets like a little step there to be gained, but there's a lot less like commitment. Like when you go, like it's the formations they run. Usually it's the formation with the crack toss. It's just it gets overflowed with defenders over here, and there's usually a corner to stop it. The edge defender really shoots up field, but with like him not getting cracked here, he plays it a little more safely. Is more trying to set the edge, and creates better angles, I think, for the O line. And now, boom, Jalen Wright's able to set this up, hit down the middle right there. Just bang this line very well blocked up front. I think, angled playing more snaps is big for this team. Very, very huge. Love the usage, just getting downhill. Play after play after play. Dolphins committing to more inside zone here. Mostert reading off the blocks very well. Good double team on this backside here from Durham and Austin Jackson, and he just hits downhill immediately. He's able to find an open hole. And these plays that I'm showing now, the last few ones, we're all in the final drive. Patriots are just exhausted. Now they're getting gashed. They're hitting big run after big run. Another outside zone concept. Jalen Wright able to, hit up through it. And I usually prefer a straight outside zone like this, because even though you're trying to capture the edge, outside zone can just turn into bang or, cutbacks where you're hitting through that A gap and you're still playing as a downhill team. You can still play as a downhill team. Like Lions are known as a downhill team. They still run. They run a lot of outside zone too, but they mix in, their counters and their duos and stuff like that. And the Dolphins were able to finish off that drive with their only touchdown in the game. I thought clearly the Dolphins still have found their offensive struggles in this game for sure, but they were clearly able to move the ball way, way better. Even they passed the ball better than they have been with the backup quarterbacks in. So it made life easier on your quarterback. I just think this is the recipe for success when your starting QB comes back to it. It makes life easier for him. I think it also fits his skill set. He's also a great ball handler. He's really good at using misdirection or selling things. So that can obviously even help play action, or just if you have maybe a fake handoff here and then you run the reverse there, that helps those types of plays. But those are kind of the running plays I wanted to break down. You can still run this stuff. This was one of the only more trick or fancy plays the Dolphins ran in this game. Now, if you're doing this less often, you can find some more success. Obviously, this is also beautiful play design. You orbit motion Johnny Smith around. You still have the pulling guard go across. It just puts so much misdirection. Look at the effect it has on these guys. He's floated around. You get Brewer out and leads. Now Jonnu, who's the orbit motion, can be your lead blocker on the corner. Unfortunately, Achane gets hurt on this play, but this just created so much opportunity. Play action. Look at the clean pocket it creates, and look at the effect it has on these defenders. So they only have one safety deep. Dolphins want to come out, and if they see one safety, they want to attack with play action. They know they have an extra number in the box now. You play action, it creates a clean pocket, boom, you hit the ball. These guys don't gain depth, which if you go look when Tua's in off play action, if it's not being completed, these guys are gaining so much depth. But now they're not able to gain depth. It basically creates a one-on-one down the field with Tyreek or Waddle. Even on their best corner, you're still able to get completions. I love this concept because I feel like this is something Dolphins don't do a ton of, but I think this is a strength of Huntley. I think it'd also be something Tua could do, is sort of these quick hitters over the middle with the tight end. We've seen the Dolphins do it with Tua, but it's not something I think we see enough of, especially now with Jonnu Smith in the lineup. Also, I like where you can get him lined up here. He can play in that nasty split. He doesn't have to be an inline guy now to block, but he can play in that nasty split where usually you have your receiver to crack toss. He can be that guy, but can still run a route. He can block better than your receiver, and then boom, get down the field, and it gets really successful. I don't think the Dolphins should really run those crack tosses anymore until maybe Craig Kraft comes back, because he's really the only receiver, or even DeBose. Those guys that can actually block as receivers. Then you can start going into more of those screens, crack tosses where you need receivers to block. But just look at how much room was created on play action throughout this game. These are all the actual play action reps where look at the flow. You get the motion across here with angled, get the flow, really selling the toss play. You actually pull across the linebacker, boom, 50 out of the play. 15 flows too, because, it also is a potential pass out of it, and then you get Waddle just over the middle, boom, creates a wide open. I just thought the play design was so excellent in this game. This is sort of where you need to be as a team, because Dolphins have always been a heavy play action team, but it always felt like they were a play action before the run type team. I think they need to be more of a either completely balanced where it's 50-50, or slight edge of the run game for at least for the next few games. And then once teams like really commit to stop the run against you, then you can have your games where you're more pass heavy, but then still go back to games where you're commit to the run too. Just depends on what defenses give you. I think the Dolphins were able to create much more clean pockets. Play action here, they don't bite on it as much, but like that first read isn't there. This guy's still looking, because this running back is an option in the passing game. He comes off the first read and then finds Waddle working. Or no, that's Tyreek this time. But yeah, Waddle wasn't open on the first read. You find Tyreek. Just works out. Play action. This is a 1st and 18 play action on the final drive too, where you just find Tyreek. They still stack the box. Like they have, 8 guys down here in the box, so it's single high. They're running cover 3. You get play action. These guys don't gain a ton of depth. Boom, you find the perfect window between these square of defenders for Tyreek to pick up a first down on 1st and 18. Like these big plays were much more, I just feel like percentage-wise, were much more likely to be made in this game versus New England with the game plan. And it's not like New England has the worst defense either. They actually have some talent, and like statistically, like they're kind of like middle of the pack. But like it's not like they're horrible. They'll face some worse defenses across, like Indianapolis next week, just a really bad defense. But really enjoyed what I saw, I think, from McDaniel in this game. If he can continue this, I think you have a chance to, make a run. If he doesn't, if he goes back to the old ways, then he puts his job really in danger. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I think this offense still has so much potential. I think a lot of people put a lot of blame on the O-line, but the O-line really hasn't been playing that bad. I think for how the O-line has been playing, the offense should be much better because you have way too much talent at running back. You have way too much talent at receiver. And if Tua comes back, this offense should be one of the better ones in the league. Not saying they need to be the number one like they were last year, but talent-wise, they can get back to that spot if the play calling and play design is used correctly. And, you don't shoot yourself in the foot with dumb mistakes like they've been doing a lot. The opportunity, the potential, you could see it all over this film in this game. But they would just make some dumb mistakes that kind of just ruin drives. Like they left a lot of points on the board in this game. Like they, had multiple special teams mistakes with missed field goals and, fumbled snaps. They also had another drive where they would have at least kicked a field goal, but they snapped the ball when Huntley wasn't ready. It went over his head, and then they had to punt. So just too many drives. They also had a potential missed touchdown that Huntley had that they ended up kicking a field goal on. So there's points to be had on the board. And I think they'll find that more with Tua. It just depends if they can keep this game plan and play calling when Tua comes back in the lineup, because I really didn't like the play calling with Tua in the first 2 games. I think he found a little more of a rhythm with the Jacksonville game in the second half, but the Bills game wasn't very good. Also, feels like ever since the Bills game, we haven't really seen the backup receivers come in and be targets, which is funny. So hopefully that's not the case when Tua comes back either. Like keep these starting receivers in and playing majority of the snaps. So, but if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.